Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Lycanthro, Remnants of Rapture, out May 23rd on Psychomentum Records. This album has 10 tracks, 46 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are a Canadian heavy metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, this is an album that's well formatted. It has a sense of beginning, middle, and end. It allows you to feel what the overall record has in store for you. It's an album that's well crafted from that standpoint, still giving a lot of room for the individual songs to breathe, to grow, to develop, but never really forgetting what they need to offer as far as the collective is concerned. So this makes for a great experience all around, and it definitely adds value to the album as a whole. Now, when you look at the sound of this album, this is a classic heavy metal sounding record with also a lot of power metal elements. That is pretty much the spinal cord of this record. When you look at those two genres, you always try to identify the guitars as the main focal point of the sound, of what pushes the record, of what drives these tracks. And that is exactly what you're going to discover with this album. The album has a heavy focus on the guitar sound. Not just in terms of melodies, not just in terms of leads, but even when you look at the solos and the overall song compositions, is a very guitar focused, a very guitar centric record. I think there was room for the guitars at times to sound a little bit thicker, because what that would have done was it have given more volume to the record. The record at times sound wise, because of how driven it is, it sounds a little bit narrow. So either increasing the guitar thickness or adding more heaviness, more power, more strength, I would go as far as to say more depth to the overall drum sound, either one or the other, or even maybe both, would have definitely helped the size of this record. I think that's where this album loses a little bit of its steam, because the guitar sound and the overall sound really hits home. It's, like I said, it's a very guitar-centric album with great guitar playing throughout. The solos on the album always add quality. They always add this sense of old school classic heavy metal essence to the songs. They open up the tracks a little bit more. It's a sound that when it's driven, and it really pushes the listener forward with great momentum, with great riffage. So it's an album that has all of the necessary elements in there sound-wise in order to really appease to the fan base, not just of the band, but of the lovers of the genres. But I felt like it lacked a little bit more width. Not that it's always super narrow. There are songs on this record where the sound feels a little bit more robust, especially songs where the drums gain a little bit more essence, where they gain a little bit more of a robust nature to them. But all around, when you listen to a record like this, where the vocals are a little bit more to the middle, to the upper echelon as far as the delivery is concerned, where there's not a lot at the bottom end of the range, where there are some backing vocals here and there, but it's not an element that by no means grounds the record. You definitely need something that gives some substance to the bottom portion of the sound, allowing the footprint of the record to be a little bit wider, which then allows the songs to have moments where they're a little bit more narrow, a little bit more driven, but the overall soundscape itself still sounds pretty epic and pretty big. And I think this is a band that almost has to move in towards that direction, because I feel like they have almost this, they're at the cusp of becoming more an epic metal sounding band, either an epic heavy metal band or an epic power metal band. But I feel like the word epic really resonates well with the vocal style, with the vocal approach, with the lyrical content. It's just that the sound gets almost there but doesn't cross the finish line. And I think that's something they need to look in future records, in terms of not changing too much of what the DNA of the band is, but when it comes to the production of the album, you really need to increase the borders of the record, the borders of the sound. You need to give the record a little bit more size, a little bit more bandwidth, so that the tracks still have the clarity that they have on this album. It's an album that from that perspective is super crisp, really polished across all the different elements, because you can hear the keys, you can hear the guitars, drums, bass, everything has its own room to exist. but you need to find a way of where all of these elements come together and the song gains size without losing that sense of clarity that it's so important for this sound, for this genre. And I thought that the keys, for example, on this album felt a little bit better integrated into what the overall tapestry of sound for this record is. I was expecting coming in that the keys perhaps would play more of a role in terms of dominating the sound experience, almost overshadowing the guitars, or playing this huge role into what the melody and atmosphere of the songs are all about. It's not the case. They're there to enhance the experience. They're there to give a little bit more clarity, to help define what that epicness could be. But the fact that they still kept the guitars up front, in the forefront, driving each and every single song, I think is a testament for what they want from themselves as a band, staying very guitar centric, very guitar focused, and then using all of the other elements to complement that experience, but never really forgetting that everything needs to start and end with great guitar sound. Outside of that, obviously, you very dependent on a vocal delivery and a vocal style. Like I mentioned earlier, there's not a lot at the bottom end of the range. And I know they had two guest vocalists on the record, Laura from Burning Witches and Stu, formerly of Ice Earth. So they had two guest vocalists on the record that helped change a little bit of the dynamics of the vocals. I don't think for this sound you need to change too much. Having some more backing vocals, and specifically maybe a little bit more choir heavy in certain portions, would help give some substance to the bottom end of the vocal range, but also would help the record as far as the overall epicness is concerned. So you could check two boxes with one single element, but all around I enjoy the vocal performance. I think it matched that more guitar centric, that more epic sound that the band is not there quite yet, but they're very much at the cusp of being. And I think with a vocal performance like this, with some better management of the sound, of the overall mixing, I think the vocals that they currently have are going to be plenty to take them over that hump and create a sound that I feel specifically right now in Europe is super popular. This new wave of heavy metal, power metal bands, like Judicator, for example, coming out of North America, or even Fellowship. I feel like these guys are at that cusp of moving into that realm, and I think they just need a little bit bigger size in the songs. Not necessarily heaviness in the songs, but bigger size in the songs in order to help them make that push. But this is only their second record, a well put together, crafted album with clear ideas of what they wanted, and I feel like it's an album that for the fans of the genre that enjoy that more classic heavy metal, power metal sound that's really blossoming right now, this album definitely deserves to be on the playlist. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I picked three very different tracks to kind of illustrate the similarities that the album has, but also the diversity that the album offers. I want to start off with Far Beyond the Walls. This is one of the most classic songs, a prototypical track, I would say, as far as defining what this album is all about. A track that has this classic heavy metal style sound with a lot of power metal riffs, like to just push the song forward. Very fast, very driven. You could even say that it's a little bit narrow at times. The vocals match that same vibe, that same velocity of sound that the track has. And then you have the keys inserted in there in order to help the overall melody and the atmosphere of the song to better define it, adding some epicness to the song, specifically when they come in the chorus, because they're noticeable in the chorus. They make the chorus a little bit brighter, a little bit bigger, but the fact that they're not there in the verses, and that the song is very guitar focused, very guitar driven, and really pushing forward, makes the verses feel slightly more narrow. I think they could have been a little bit wider. The song overall would have been a lot wider, would have been a lot more impactful, but it's a great track with great old school elements, like the solo sections work really well on a song like this, and overall I really enjoy the vocals for this style of track. Then we have Prison Eyes, a ballad, the ballad of the album, if you will. And it is a very stripped down acoustic ballad, really depending heavily on the guitars first and foremost, and on the vocal performance to absolutely carry the track through. This song, sound wise, it felt very medieval. It has a medieval almost folk style, like you're in a king's court in this song is being played for you, because it has that, not only that stripped down effect, it also has a little bit of that folkiness into the melody of the acoustic guitars. The two elements kind of go hand in hand throughout the entire track. But it's also a song that allows the vocals to be in the forefront, because there's not a lot for you to hide behind. The vocals really have to deliver on a song like this, because like I said, there's not a lot of sound for you to be able to hide any imperfections or any mistakes. So it's a very vulnerable song from that standpoint, but it's a beautifully executed song from start to finish. Last but definitely not least, in Demon Light, this is perhaps one of the thicker, wider sounding songs that this album has. And I think more songs need to go towards this realm. On this track, the drums sounded bigger, they felt bigger, a little bit heavier, more impactful, creating a thicker presence, not just for themselves, but even for the guitar sound that follows it. And the guitars themselves having a little bit more of a heaviness to them, a little bit more bite, and then you have the vocals that just soar over that heaviness, that really lift up the track when everything else is kind of bringing the track down. This is also a track that uses some backing vocals here and there, and I thought they were excellent, because just on layers alone, even though you're not infusing heaviness on those backing vocals, but just on layers alone, you're also adding size, you're also adding thickness, and you're bringing the track down. So it feels like the most, or one of the most complete tracks on this record in terms of the sound, how it's put together, how the song is presented, and definitely having closer lines tying it up with that more epic heavy metal sound that I think this band could really reach. This is it, Lycanthro with Remnants of Rapture, once again out May 23rd on Psychomentium Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, guys.